Welcome, everyone, to the 2026 National Wilderness Skills Institute. This is the last session in our North America Rangers track, as we've been sort of sharing sort of the formation of a North America Ranger group, gathering, association, if you will, and then going through some sessions that apply to all Rangers across all boundaries. Um, this is our last session, like I said, and we're ending up on a global focus. And so one of the exciting events coming up is the World Ranger Congress. And if you love accents from around the world, this is going to be a treat for you. We have folks from Mexico and Australia and South Africa and the UK and all the time zones. We're really thankful for Andy joining us at 6 a.m. his time, and for Chris will be joining us here as well, who is currently 10 p.m. So thank you all for joining us and adjusting your schedules to be with us here today. All right, that's enough for me. I'm going to pass it over to Monica and John and Andy and Chris to get us started here.
Thanks very much for the opportunity. It's great to be participating in the event, and I hope it's all gone well so far, and look forward to sharing information about the International Ranger Federation and some of the work that we're doing. Just to brief everyone in terms of what we're going to be talking about, and we'll go between a number of the different members of the International Ranger Federation, so that's not just my voice taking you through a PowerPoint slide. So I'm going to be talking to the International Ranger Federation and just it as a global organization and a community of rangers, who we are, what we do, etc. And then we'll go into the IRF World Ranger Congresses, and we'll be talking to that World Ranger Action Plan that has been developed, which came out of the World Ranger Congresses and their declarations. And then, very importantly, the Global State of the Ranger Report, which Monica is working on. She'll cover that. And then the upcoming World Ranger Congress, which is really exciting. That will be taking place next year. So that is what we will be covering. We have some time for questions as well. So one of the important things is and we often got asked that question, well, who is a ranger? Who associates as a ranger? Obviously, the term is, we use ranger, but around the world, the term is, there's lots of different terms for a ranger. We have game scout, we have forest guards, and a whole range of different names. So what we had to do was to look at what are the defining activities of a ranger in terms of the work that they carry out, and that is what we used to identify who a ranger is. So for us, we've defined it as rangers. They work in protected and conserved areas. They can be state, regional, or communal, or indigenous or privately employed as essential on-the-ground planetary health professionals that are responsible for safeguarding nature, and also, very importantly, cultural heritage and historical heritage as well. It's not just the nature side. There's other elements that they look after and participate in securing. And then protecting the rights and well-being of the present and future generations linked to the sort of sustainable elements. So along with understanding who is a ranger, we needed to, importantly, understand, well, how many rangers in the world are there? What seemed like a very simple question, it turned out to be not such an easy process to get to the answer. So we ran a global survey, the first of its kind, and we worked out that there are estimated about 286,000 rangers in the world. What came out of that was, with the global biodiversity framework targets that were set, particularly the target 3, looking at 30 by 30, and wanting to have effective management across 30% of the planet, was to understand, well, does 286,000 rangers sufficiently meet the requirements to provide effective management across that area? And the answer was no. What we found was that we needed 800,000 more rangers to protect the expansion of the landscapes that the world is looking to secure. And so that takes us to a number of 1.5 million rangers are needed around the world. So that was a very important study that has also shaped in terms of promoting and trying to get a greater capacity in the ranger sector. For the International Ranger Federation, we have our strategy, which is centered around the 30 by 30 targets. And we have sort of three elements to it. The first being ranger advancement and professionalization of the sector, very important. And then aligned to that was ranger networks and learning. And as a membership-based organization, obviously that's really pivotal to our organization. And then obviously ensuring that the organization itself is sustainable and can carry out it meets its objectives, try and achieve its mission, and carry out its vision. So it has a mission to develop, advance, and promote throughout the world community the ranger profession and its critical role in the conservation of natural and cultural resources. And then the vision, as I mentioned, is aligned to the 30 by 30 targets at 2030, which now is not far away. And we want to have a world where rangers are recognized, they're valued, respected, and supported as the key guardians of our planet's natural and cultural heritage. So this is just an outline of the structure of the IRF. It's got three tiers to it. We are, as a federation, made up of national and subnational associations, which then fall under our regional bodies. So for Africa, we have the Game Rangers Association of Africa. In Asia, we've got the Ranger Federation of Asia. Europe, the European Ranger Federation. And North America, we're looking to still develop that region as an entity. Central America, we've got the Latin American Ranger Federation, which is newly formed, and that's consolidated Central and South America. And Oceania is in the process of developing the Oceania organization, which is CORA, the Council of Ranger Associations. So this is the structure that we have, and then that we get people who are rangers who are elected into to represent the IRF from each region, and that forms our board together with the structure of the president, vice president, secretary, etc. So that's our structure that we have that covers all parts of the world. We have a lot of different, as I say, members from all those different regions who feed into those regional bodies. And then out of that, we look to have regional congresses. The images here, we've got one which is right in the center, that was in Peru, which was really around the formation of the Latin American Ranger Federation. We've got the European Ranger Federation on the left-hand side, the first Asian Ranger Forum, which took place in India, in Guwahati, and then the African Ranger Congress bottom, and then Oceania, which is the bottom right. So these are the regional gatherings that take place probably in an interval of every 3 to 4 years. Just to say that those regional meetings are very important in terms of coming out or gathering information, regionally relevant information that feeds into the IRF, so that we get a much better picture of what's happening in the ranger sector globally, and that will be covered in the like the State of the Ranger, which a report which Monica will talk to as well. Our regional membership is we've got a very strong membership in Europe with the highest number of ranger associations, followed by Latin America, South America, having the most in that region, and then spread out accordingly. The total number of members that we have, because we've got different categories, we've got a regular membership category, provisional, and then associate members. So a total number of 236 members around the world. What's also obviously for us as a membership-based organization is to grow the number of ranger associations as members, so that we have greater reach and into the ranger community. And so we have had steady growth since 2019 to now. So really from starting at 102 members to 236 that we're sitting on currently. Part of the 30 by 30 framework was to look at, well, what was essential or defining for rangers in terms of aligning to that framework. And what we found was that out of this, the various studies that we conducted, and then together with what was coming out of the regional meetings in terms of declarations and World Ranger Congresses, was there's a couple of things that really stood out that needed to be addressed. And so what was developed was this framework. We need to, in terms of achieving effective management, we honestly believe that rangers are central to that. And in order for rangers to be effective on the ground, there's certain things that need to be addressed. Firstly, the conditions that rangers operate in are critical to ensuring the right to decent work, having a safe workplace, and having the right equipment to do their work, and obviously ensuring that there's equality and equity in the workplace as well. And the other one, which is the sort of second C out of the three C's, is to conduct and have responsible, accountable, and strong leadership as well, and also it's having a rights-based approach to the work. And the next one is around competencies, and obviously knowledge is very important. Improving that knowledge, developing the skills, the critical skills that are required by rangers, which is continually evolving, and we see that playing out around the world with new challenges that rangers are facing, and then also having the correct attitudes to the work, and then ensuring that there's a adequate training and learning environment. And that is really obviously aligned to one of our pillars, which is obviously the professionalization of the ranger sector. And if we can achieve these and work and focus on these three C's, we are going to have a far more effective workforce, and really will contribute significantly to getting close to achieving that 30 by 30 global biodiversity framework. One of the important things that we do as the International Ranger Federation is gather data around the rangers who unfortunately pass away in the line of duty. We do this annually, and we call it the roll of honor. So we try as far as possible to record the names of those individuals that pass away, and also in terms of what is the cause of that, because it's very important to understand what are the causes of ranger fatalities in the workplace, and therefore understanding how can that be addressed. We've managed to get a lot of very useful information to really give us a better picture of where the challenges are being faced by rangers around the world. So this is all done, and we release this on World Ranger Day. And it's also to recognize all the rangers that have dedicated their lives to the work of being a ranger, and we look to honor them on World Ranger Day. As I said, that's coming up 31st of July, so keep an eye out for that and join us in celebrating the rangers around the world, not just those that have passed away, but also those that are carrying out such vital work. So what we've also found is that there's a real need to change the narrative around the work of rangers and also within the profession itself. You know, there's a lot of the sort of stereotype ranger is often a male ranger and seen as a male-dominated position, and that's something that we need to look at. And we've been working really hard at that. We've got a female ranger working group focused on looking to address the balance of and diversity of rangers around the world. And yeah, I must say, from the time that I've been with the IRF, it has been great to see the significant sort of changes and change of mindset as well to that aspect of the profession. So also to say that rangers are not just out there as guards, but they really are there as service providers. They're securing, obviously, critical ecosystem services that we all rely on, and they are defending cultural heritage, natural heritage sites, and values for future generations. It's not an easy thing because often there's rangers are pitted against communities, but that's not the case. Rangers often come from those very communities and are actually best placed to be in those positions to engage and work with those local communities and add value to the environments in which they serve. So just in terms of the rights as well, the work of the ranger does carry in some places high levels of danger, and that it's diverse across the world and different workplaces, and we need to understand each context of the ranger because it's very different. But at the same time, rangers have rights, and sometimes that's we don't see that always being well respected. So we've got to elevate the rights that rangers have, as I mentioned earlier, the three C's, the sort of the conditions and having the decent work conditions, etc. That we see. Rangers sometimes are working in far out places, and sometimes their conditions are not necessarily adequate. Clean drinking water is sometimes, as a basic need, is not necessarily provided, and those basic conditions need to be addressed to have an effective ranger workforce. So I think from that, there's a lot of work around changing the narrative of the ranger to be one that is positive, that is also attractive to the next generation as well. That this is a career and it's a respected profession that's worth getting involved in, so that we do start developing the next generation to fill that 800,000 or so rangers that are needed in the very, very near future, and establishing them and being recognized as essential planetary health workers. So, this is not done in isolation. I think it's all the work that we do. We work very closely with a whole range of partners. We have established a very important partnership called the Universal Ranger Support Alliance, or URSA, that has really partnered with us. That entity or partnership is made up of a number of the global NGOs, We haven't got them listed here, but you can actually go onto the URSA website and have a look and see all the global NGOs that are part of that partnership. And I think it's been hugely valuable to the IRF to help amplify the messaging of what rangers do, what they're about, but also for them as these big global organizations to internalize what rangers do and the value that they add. And I think it has played a really sort of shifted the dial in the last couple of years by having that partnership. And that has led to other big engagements and sort of partnerships, but I think collaborations, exactly like the one that we have here in terms of working with the US Forest Service. Working with the Global Environmental Facility, the World Bank, Higher Mission Coalition. Yeah, so there's a huge range of organizations that we've been able to connect with, and hopefully we can grow that further in time to come. So yeah, it's all about partnerships for rangers, and it's critical to our work. But I'd like to just hand over to Andy in terms of the next view in the World Ranger Congresses and those in the past. So thanks very much, and over to you, Andy.
Thanks, Chris. And thanks to Dusty and the team for having us involved in this. And as Dusty said, I'm coming to you from Australia. It's about 6 o'clock on Friday morning before a long weekend. So looking forward to what's coming up. And I'm coming to you from Bunurong country today. So we acknowledge our First Nations people in terms of the country we're on. So I'm on Bunurong country here in Victoria, Australia. Every 3 to 4 years, the IRF hosts a World Ranger Congress, and we do that in collaboration with a host organisation. And we're trying to share those congresses across the many regions around the globe. And as you can see from the slide in front of you, there have been 10 World Ranger Congresses already. 2024, the most recent one in France, was an absolutely fantastic opportunity to come together and collaborate. Next one is in 2027 in Argentina, and we'll come to that in a minute. And we're actually in the process of looking for someone to work with the IRF and host a 2030 World Ranger Congress. So, applications are currently open for that. The thing is with the World Ranger Congress, someone always asks, what is the World Ranger Congress and what do you get from it? If anyone tries to get support from their work to go to them, that's always the question you're going to get from your managers and from your organisation. Well, the World Ranger Congress is different to every single person. The World Ranger Congress has a key structure or agenda, and essentially the World Ranger Congress is the IRF's AGM, but every World Ranger Congress has a theme, and that's developed in collaboration between the IRF and the host organisation. But there are some really key outputs from the World Ranger Congress, and those outputs include the declaration, which I think Monica is going to talk to in a minute. As I said, the AGM, we have elections for the IRF board and executive, so it's an election process. But there are a series of thematic workshops, essentially, and from those things, from those workshops and those opportunities is where the real benefit of these World Ranger Congresses come out. And they are basically partnerships, learning and experience and exposure from other people and other cultures. So if, the one in France and the one coming up in Argentina, they get to demonstrate those particular areas of interest and cultures to them, and just fantastic opportunities. But the World Ranger Congress is so much more than that as well. It's a real professional thing, but it's an incredible social opportunity. You make so many new partnerships and connections and friends and lifelong ones as well. And I think Mike Lynch is on the call here today. There's also the opportunity, which Mike and I love, is the opportunity to swap swag and merch and learn and get badges and shirts and hats from each other. That sounds really funny, but in doing that, you build your connections, you build your knowledge as a ranger around the world. And just to spend time talking to people from around the world about what you're doing as a ranger compared to what I'm doing as a ranger is one of the massive benefits of the World Ranger Congress. But it's the showcase. It's an absolute showcase of who we are as a community, the ranger community, the protected area community, and an opportunity to showcase what each of those locations have to show, and promoting and progressing, obviously, rangers across the world. One of the real big things that comes out of the World Ranger Congress is the opportunity to sponsor other people to attend. This photo is from Estes Park in Denver, Colorado in 2016. This is my first World Ranger Congress, and geez, I look a bit younger in the photo there with longer hair too. But we get people from all around the world, as you can see from the flags and the uniforms, and we have a lot of effort goes into sponsoring people to get there from our less established organisations and countries and associations. So if you can support others to get there as well as yourself, that's a real thing that helps us have a better event. I think this one is, this is Nepal, Chitwan in Nepal. This was just such an incredibly rich cultural experience, and one for me, just down the road, literally from where this Congress was held, we had rhinos walking the streets, and you could see rhinos out in the bush, and we went on safaris, you could see elephants and tigers, and just those things that you don't get to experience in your normal day-to-day life. But an incredibly culturally rich experience there in Chitwan in Nepal. And this is the most recent one in France. An incredible opportunity. We had well over 400 people attend this one, and it's growing every time. We're expecting 600, I think, in Argentina. So if you can attend, please do. It's just such an incredible experience. And I think this is a photograph of Antwell from our Argentinian Ranger Association. This is just as we announced it at the World Ranger Congress. So here's Chris and Antwell. So at the end of the 2027 Congress, we'll be announcing who's hosting the 2030. So it's a bit of an announcement like the Olympics. It's trying to get everybody interested and get the excitement up and get people to want to attend. See you there, 2027.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, and it's my first Congress was actually in France and here, and it was a kind of wonderful opportunity to meet everyone in the IRF and meet so many rangers from around the world. So my name's Jonathan. I'm the general manager of the IRF, and a big part of my job is to turn what we discuss at the World Ranger Congresses into action. And as Andy said, and so did Chris, one of the outputs of each Congress is the Ranger Declaration. So our most recent one in 2024 set out what Rangers wanted to see achieved over the next few years. And this really leads up to 2030, when the next, what are the goals of the Global Biodiversity Framework. And it is really the voice of Rangers. They set out what their priorities are for the IRF, but also what their priorities and things that matter to them at a global level. So we take that and we form what is called the Ranger Declaration, and then it's on that. It's my job then to turn this declaration into action. And we turn that into an action plan. So we have a document which we can all use and work to, which sets out exactly what we are going to try and achieve. This World Range Action Plan runs up to 2030. As I said, it's aligned with the larger biodiversity framework. But we'll also be updated with the next declaration, which is going to come from Argentina. Next slide. So just to give an idea, so the action plan is quite a broad document, and it states lots and lots of things, from inclusivity to formal recognition to better working conditions. And we break down those large topics into individual actions, which we then go and deliver on. And these are some of the actions that we're working on currently. And I'm just going to highlight a couple of them, because sometimes people can look at the declaration and think, well, that doesn't apply to me, in Europe or the US or Australia or Africa. But actually, some of the things we're working on here are universal. Some of them are specific to a point, to say, actually, we're trying to improve working conditions in certain parts of the world. But actually, many of them do impact rangers globally. So Monica's going to talk about the State of the Ranger report and the Volume 2 data collection. But one thing that we've been working on which is a direct call, was ranger insurance. I'm sure in North America, people working either for the government or the federal level or the state level have insurance. But what we find is a lot of places in the global south, they don't have access to insurance. It's not necessarily they can afford it or can't afford it, is that the physical product doesn't exist. And this is basic life insurance and basic health insurance. We've had great success in Africa with the launch of the Ranger Protect program, of being able to insure rangers at a really low cost, which gives them access to vital life insurance. And now we're trying to expand that across into Asia, and we're going to hopefully launching a product in India as a pilot to see how we can ensure the huge informal ranger workforce across there. We've also been asked to look at mental health standards, and this again is global. One thing we've been collecting this year, which we hadn't collected previously, is the number of suicides that are related to work and in the ranger workforce. And a lot of that is about understanding what the issue is and the problem is, but also to find out, well, how can we make a difference? How can we create mental health standards that are specifically textual for rangers? And again, that is universal. That is not just about one country, one type of ranger in one place. These standards can be used anywhere. And another global element that we're working on is a ranger rights charter. So we're always asked about how can we develop a way of getting formal recognition for rangers. Now, there's some very complex ways. You can work with the UN and other organizations to have a convention that states that rangers should be recognized in the same way that a doctor or a nurse is recognized globally. But there are other ways. And one of the ways we're working at the moment is a voluntary ranger rights charter, which we want governments and organizations to sign, saying that they recognize that rangers have rights, that they deserve to be trained, they deserve certain conditions, and we expect them to operate in a certain way. So going back to the 3 C's that Chris talked about earlier. Another way we're trying to do that, again, this is on a global level. The US, sadly, is not a member of the biodiversity framework. But one thing that states do around the world is they report every few years to the UN on their progress against these big biodiversity goals. And there's a big glaring omission. They don't have to report on the workforce. They have to report on how many hectares they're protecting, how many species they're looking after, and how much money they've raised. But nowhere does it say that they have to report on the actual men and women doing the job every day. So we're pushing to get that included in something called the NBSAP, the National Biodiversity Strategic Action Plans, which every state who is a signatory of the convention has to upload. We've seen some countries where they've voluntarily done that, but 1 or 2. And actually, we want to see every state do this as a formal process, so we know exactly what is happening in each country, that each country is taking into account their ranger workforce. So again, a real global goal and a global activity that we think will lead to real substantial change for rangers. There's a couple of other which are coming soon, which we're sort of mulling over at the moment. So the Junior Ranger Program, which Monica's working on with the team from Colorado State University, to see again how can we get young people excited about the ranger profession, not just to be excited about nature, but actually thinking about how they can be involved in this. And we see there are junior ranger programs in countries and states and at the local level. But how can we get something at a national, international level to get young people really, really engaged? And they're the future, next generation of rangers that we want to develop. And we're also looking, which was new in the HEAD Ranger Declaration, was the recognition of marine rangers. Most of our work has been on terrestrial, but actually the number of marine protected areas is growing. Currently, only 9% of the world of the marine environment is protected, and that needs to grow to 30. 19% of terrestrial is protected. So the larger area of growth is actually in the marine space. But there's a real deficit of knowledge around what is unique and what is contextually specific to marine rangers versus terrestrial rangers. So that's something that we were asked directly to do in France and something we're working on currently. So we'll get an update of the declaration in Argentina, which will be a collection of asks, requests. We'll give an update about what has been achieved over the last few years. And again, what are the priorities for rangers that the IRF needs to deliver up to 2030? So going to the declaration, so going to the Congress is a way of being an active participant in this declaration and therefore in the kind of global change that we're seeing with the ranger movement.
Thank you, John. Yes,
Right.
I'll be quick on this part, but I think it's very important to share one of the big highlights we did with the previous World Ranger Congress at France was to publish our first State of the Ranger report, which is a baseline to understand where the ranger profession is globally, because as you know, the information is super dispersed and very scarce information. So we wanted to see to have a global baseline of where the profession is and start tracking it through different State of the Ranger reports to be published each World Ranger Congress. And sorry, I did not introduce myself. I'm Monica Alverez from the Development Officer, and I'm in Mexico City, if you wanted to hear more accents. So back to the State of the Ranger, what's the content of State of the Ranger? We have information on demographics, recognition, conditions, competencies, conduct, inclusivity, ranger associations, and recommendations. And all this content is based also in the World Ranger Declarations, what it's important for the ranger community to track. And just a quick snapshot into the North America results we got from Volume 1. Out of the 1,286 ranger surveys, from responses from rangers from 81 countries, 76 were from the United States and 28 rangers were from Canada. So we had fair enough participation for Volume 1 compared to other regions, but still we need way more representation from the US and Canada and all North America to be able to have better information, more representative information from the region. How we run this is through global survey, both for rangers and employers. We wanted to have both perceptions of the same indicators we're tracking. So for instance, on the employer survey, we only got 8 employers from the US participating and none from Canada. So we really, really want to have more representation, more voices from North America in Volume 2 that will be published in Argentina. And right now is the data collection process open. So the surveys are open, and I will share this service for everyone here to please, if you identify yourself as a ranger, to please help us to fill it out, share with your colleagues. It's anonymous. We have a very strong process of ethical review board of the University of Central Florida that we're partnering this project with them. So we take ethics very seriously, but again, we need as much representation and voices from every ranger out there that we could get for Volume 2. Some of the highlights we got, and this explains a lot of our projects of the declaration outputs. For instance, in conditions, as Chris and John said, less than 40% of rangers have insurance. This came out from State of the Ranger Volume 1. And less than 60% have adequate health and safety training. Almost half of rangers do not have the right resources to do their job. And almost 40% of rangers do not have the right communication tools to do their job. Another interesting data we got is, well, this is not surprising. This is from the employers. 65% of the employers do not feel they have the right number of rangers in their protected area. So this is global. Sometimes we tend to think that our problems are in our country. But then when you look at reports like the State of the Ranger, it's when you realize that this is really structural problems and it's everywhere that rangers face very similar challenges. In competencies, around 60% of rangers said to have received an introductory course. That means that 40% didn't or can't remember. So this is something to put attention to as well. And it's not here in the slides, but we also find out that 90% of rangers in the world interact with communities, with local communities, and most of them don't receive like a not a course, but training on how to interact with groups. So that was also a highlight of Volume 1. We did a bit of regional breakdown. This is for North America to compare responses from rangers and employers. And what you can see here in these questions that you pay at least minimum wage according to your country. Well, this is both rangers, but you can compare to the other regions. So North America, Europe, and Oceania are very well and are very well standing compared to maybe the global South. And then this one is interesting. We also asked, what is your primary role as a ranger? This is only from North America. So you can see the diversity of activities that rangers do. The words or the terms that are in higher letters is because we're mentioned more than once. But that's when you really get to see the diversity of everything that a ranger can do. This is also for North America only. When we asked them, do you intend to continue being a member in your ranger association? We want to see the value of associations for rangers. Well, most of them said yes out of 56. USA is orange, Canada it's blue. But as you see, most of them said that yes, they intended to be part of the Ranger Association in the US, and they do perceive benefits of being part of a Ranger Association. That is also, we also appreciate the space of having a North America Ranger track and having a space yesterday for the Ranger representatives of associations in the US. Dusty, thank you, and the team there for giving us that space of our North America Rangers track, which is very exciting. And just an invitation for the next World Ranger, the State of the Ranger report that will be published in Argentina. We really want to hear your voices. We really want to hear from every type of ranger in North America. These are the Ranger survey and employer survey, so please jump in and fill them out. As I said, it's anonymous. We have a very strong ethical process, but we need as much as responses. We've heard so many times of it would be great to only have a specific US survey like this, which would be awesome, of course. But what we can do is with our Global Ranger survey, if we have a lot of data coming from North America, we can disaggregate that data and see the details of North America. So please fill out the survey. We have mentioned about the World Ranger Congresses to get the excitement going, how it's important, why we want you there. We want as much participations from rangers from everywhere. It's in Iguazu, which is going to be exciting because Iguazu is just in the border from Paraguay, Argentina, and Brazil. So it's a very rich culturally place. And obviously the falls are one of the 7 wonders of the world. And what it's going to be about this time, as Andy says, every World Ranger Congress has a different theme. This one is focused on recognition of rangers. So it's recognizing rangers, advancing the profession to safeguard our nature. And it's going to have different thematic streams. One is Ranger role and recognitions, Ranger for 30 by 30 framework, inclusive workforce, Ranger representation, and one open stream from high impact contributions. So it's like an open space to get all those interesting and amazing things that into one thematic stream, right? So something very exciting about what happens and what to expect is this Congress, as Andy said, is going to be bigger. It's going to have 600 delegates from hopefully more than 50 countries. There's still a lot of space for North America. The registrations are open now and will be sort of reserved spots for North America until the end. I can't remember if it's August or September. And then when we reach that deadline, it's going to be open for everyone. We're trying to keep quotas for regions, so every region could have representation at the Congress, because obviously for some rangers it's more difficult and they need more time to get sponsorship to get there. So there's going to be plenary talks. The expressions of interest have been submitted, so we are in the process of reviewing those expressions of interest. So it's going to be plenary talks. There's going to be a lot of workshops, open discussions, and a lot of cultural nights. Something that makes unique the World Ranger Congresses is, as Andy said, the share of cultures. So it's going to be interesting cultural night, swapping of badges, very ranger-focused events. And this one in particular will have a lot of activities outside in Iguazu, not just inside the Congress. It's very difficult to keep rangers inside for a long time. So we're going to try to use the open space as much as we can. And there's going to be amazing field trips. One there's a night tour with a moonlight, what's it called? A full moon field trip to the Iguazu Falls, and they say it's amazing, and it's just in April. So it's gonna be very, very exciting. So please, the video.
Thanks, Monica. Really want to take the time out to say thank you so much to our panelists. I know some of you got up really early, some of you are staying up really late. Just really thank you. Some of you are working through storms. Again, really appreciate the work that you're doing. It's amazing. And it really does help us connect to the larger picture and see how those individual actions we're doing contribute to the greater goal. So thank you.
Thanks, Dusty. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
Dusty.
Thanks.